So in the work that you do then, I mean, we've been doing a weekly write-up for our clients, and we've been reporting to them, Forum, Main Street, Ipsos, Innovative Research.
Ecos, yeah.
Ecos, lots of
Abacus,
different
yeah.
polls, different methodologies. It seems that in the last few days, and this is an election where the pollsters tell us 80% of people are looking for a change in government. Not surprisingly, the Liberals are high teens, maybe 20. And it looks to us like the PCs and NDP are fighting over about 75 to 78% of the vote. The Greens are still 5-6% across the province. Now, we've seen some polls that actually show the NDP 1 or 2 points or even 3 points ahead of the PCs, but then the pollster does seat projections and says, under this scenario, the PCs still win. For people that are not as close to this stuff, how is it that a poll that shows the NDP winning actually has the PCs forming government, in some cases a majority government?
Yep, well actually we do, although they're right on the edge of majority. Yeah, there's two stages to the process, that what I do and what others do, and I've been doing this really on elections going back to, I haven't been around for 50 years doing it, but I've basically done post-dictions from the past. And it's at the federal level, it's been accurate to within 4 seats per party per election. Provincially, in Ontario, it's more like 3 seats per party per election over time. So it's got a track record. This isn't just sort of something we take out of a random numbers table. The reason for that, though, is that I'm basically trying to average, and I do a weighted average, so a poll of 2,000 will count twice as much as a poll of 1,000. The IVR polls, or the robo polls as they're known, I tend to half-weight those because I don't think they're as reliable, but we do consider them. Once we've amalgamated or put together and blended really those polls, 7 this week, we get numbers which actually show the NDP now up based on those 7 polls by 3%. I'm not sure that'll stick, but nonetheless, that's what the numbers have been. We then apply that average to the various ridings, the riding history, and we look to see what the voting history was in the past. Right now, for example, when you compare the 2014 Liberal NDP difference, in 2014 the Liberals were 15 points ahead of the NDP. Now they are something on the order of, I think, 18 points behind the NDP. That 33% difference then gets applied to the riding. We do the same thing with the Conservatives. And the fact is that the NDP is just not able to provide for seats as efficiently. They're going to win some seats by very large margins, especially in the north, but in Windsor and in Hamilton and in downtown Toronto. Whereas the Conservatives are not wasting, if I can use that term, wasting as many votes. They're going to win a few more seats. It's not a cakewalk by any means. It looked like a cakewalk a month and a half ago. Back in March, it looked like this should have been an election. The Conservatives were going to win hugely. We had them over 80 seats at that time. Now they're in the mid-60s. And in fact, I think that's a reflection in part on the kind of campaign that they've run. Nonetheless, that's really the reason why one can have more votes but fewer seats. The parallel that's happened in British Columbia before like that, the federal election that had that kind of result was when Joe Clark won in '79. He had a smaller popular vote than the Liberals did at that time. Nonetheless, won more seats and for a short period of time formed the government.
But it was a minority.
That's right.
Nonetheless.
That's right.
And your most recent projection, I should say too, you're expecting to update your seat projections.
That's right. This will be updated at least once more when more polls come out after this weekend.
Okay, so early next week then we'll have an updated seat projection model on the ListPop website. We still think there's 124 ridings. Your most recent projections that were published have the PCs right on the cusp at 63. 63 is a bare majority, and then I guess we're going to get into who's going to be the speaker and which party that.
But we're not there yet. And in fairness, I should say, even if we were as accurate as 3 seats per party, that 63 really means between 60 and 66.
So it could be a minority.
For sure. Although it could be either way, if in fact the polling numbers hold like that. And maybe next week they'll be a little bit different.
Well, I mean, we're looking at, there seem to have settled into a bit of a pattern with the 2 front-running parties kind of mid to high 30s, and the Liberals struggling to cling to that 20%
The Liberals have been
mark.
sinking. And the fact is, a week ago we've currently got the Liberals at 7. A week ago, I think they were at 12. A week before that, they were at 16. A week before that, they were 20. So the Liberals have been declining throughout the campaign, and the NDP, at least up till now, has been surging. So they've kept going up. The Conservatives have declined some, but not nearly as much as the Liberals.
If there is a perception out there that the PCs and the NDP are running neck and neck, so that the public who has jobs and families and lives and pay a little bit of attention to politics and elections. If there is a perception that the two front-running parties are very, very close, is that hurting the Liberals in the sense that are people peeling off, the people that don't like Andrea Horwath that might have voted Liberal are going to instead vote PC, people that don't like Doug Ford that might have voted Liberal are going to go vote NDP?
Well, that's strategic voting.
This is the coalescing?
People, yeah, not voting for their first choice, but voting against their least choice. And in fact, that I think explains part of the NDP surge and the Liberal decline recently. Look, as you pointed out a few minutes ago, the big story this election is it's time for a change. The Liberals have had 15 years, that's a pretty good run. Most governments are in for 2 terms, they've been in for 4. And people really do want to change. But in fact, a lot of those people had already peeled off from the Liberals 2 months ago. What's happened more recently are people who were still prepared to stick with the Liberals even after the time for change argument, but are now perhaps fearful of the Conservatives, and some of those Liberals will vote Conservative as well. But what we're seeing is more of the Liberal decline is associated with NDP rise. Where the NDP is doing surprisingly well by the standards of 2 months ago, it's not so much in downtown Toronto or Windsor or Hamilton, those are strong NDP areas anyway, but a lot of the smaller cities, places like Sarnia, places like St. Catharines, Brantford, Kingston, maybe Peterborough, maybe Chatham, cities that have not had NDP members for a long time, if ever, that the NDP is starting to win there. They're picking up seats in the Kitchener area, the Waterloo area that I'm from too.
Well, it's interesting though, because the areas like Chatham and Sarnia, if the NDP win those ridings, they're not taking them away from Liberals. These are currently held by progressive Conservatives.
Southwestern, but their Liberal votes are shrinking there, helping the NDP win. Southwestern Ontario in general is going to be a disaster area for the Liberals. They're probably not going to win any seats. Southwestern Ontario really means the 519 area code. At the moment, I don't think the Liberals are going to win anything there. But a lot of people who had previously voted Liberal in a losing cause are now moving toward the NDP, it seems.
To, again, prevent a PC victory.
Well, that would be part of it. It's happening elsewhere, but in Southwestern Ontario especially.
I recall after the 2014 election having a discussion with a couple of New Democrats who said that that's what happened to them, but in reverse.
Yeah.
That the people who wanted to stop, I guess it was Tim Hudak at the time, left the NDP, voted Liberal, even though they may not have traditionally voted Liberal. So we think some of that's going on.
It's strategic voting. It's an elite behavior. Not everyone sort of has a sense exactly of the voting history of the riding. But yeah, no, 2014 strategic voting helped the Liberals and hurt the NDP. This time around, it's very different.
I find it, I think Angus Reid, the Angus Reid Institute put something out a day or two ago that said as many as 50% of voters, when making their decision, are voting like that. They're not voting for who they want. They're voting based on who they want.
That number sounds high, but the fact is, it is a phenomenon that's out there, and I think that's explaining the more recent people deserting the Liberals. Not the people that were abandoning the Liberals back in April, but the people that are deserting the Liberals just in the last time. I think a lot of that is strategic voting.